Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Pits of Motorcast. This is your host, Dave. I got in line with me Nitro funny car driver of Nostalgia Funny Car Candies and Hughes, Jim Maroney. How's it going, Jim?
Very good. How about yourself?
I'm good. How's the weather out by you today?
Actually, I couldn't tell you. I'm hanging out in Austin, Texas, as we speak. So
Okay.
We're out here getting ready to getting fitted for a form seat in the morning for a big show car. So
How's the weather in Texas?
it's good. Right now, it's great. About 77 degrees outside. Very good.
So, Jim, how did you first get involved in drag racing?
Well, bottom line is I grew up around it my entire life. My father, Jack, and his brother, Ed, and they got into drag racing in the 60s and basically grew up around it. Everything from front-end blown four-cylinder Pontiacs to, when they quit racing in the early 80s, they were running big show fuel funny cars. And in the early 90s, I went out and bought my first drag car after I decided to stay away from the circle track.
Yeah.
And I've been doing it ever since. And I've been driving funny cars for over 20 years now, and spent some time in the fuel altered ranks, and had my own series, Western Fuel Altered, out in southern Arizona, New Mexico, Nevada area. We ran a series for about 8 years, and so that's it, man. I've driven everything. If it's got wheels and goes fast, I'm in.
So did you do any bracket car racing?
Very little. My first car was a little small block Chevy injected altered that I attempted to run Super Comp in. Of course, I didn't have any electronics on it, and that was before the Heritage Series was around. And so if I won a round or two, it was a good night for me.
Okay. So what year did you start running Nitro?
I think my first Nitro ride was probably in my cousin Ron's car in that would have been 2010, something like that. Was the first time I actually ran. No, maybe earlier than that. But that was probably my first Nitro ride. And then I drove his fuel altered on the IHRA circuit in 2011 while he drove Dave Huff's Nanook car. And been burning Nitro ever since. And more recently, driving the Candies and Hughes car, partnered up with Jim Broom. And, this year we actually switched over to a 34-gallon pump and a 44-amp mag. Try to step up the program a little bit. Pretty excited about it.
Yeah, it gets a little more bigger header flames going there.
Exactly. Exactly. And with my company, I've got my boys are racing sprint cars, and I've got my name out there. And like I said, it's on a big show car right now, and we're looking toward doing a couple events this year, possibly next year, with that deal.
So now, what year did you get your funny car license?
What year did I get my funny car license? Catching me off guard here. It would have probably been about 98.
Yeah. And who licensed you?
I honestly can't even tell you. We built our first funny car in '98, and we took it on apart. We ran I say licensed funny car. We actually ran SIFCA in '98, '99. We ran with California Independent Funny Car Association for 6 or 7 years, and then we switched over to Nitro at that point.
Right, I know what you're talking about. The James Maher's alcohol group in California.
That's correct.
Yeah.
California Independent Funny Car Association.
Right. So
At
now,
the time, it was headed up by Jim Maher. Now James Maher runs the series.
Yeah, the son took over.
Right.
So now, for you, what was it like getting behind the wheel for the first time of a Nitro funny car?
It's the Nitro car runs quite a bit different than the alcohol cars do. The Nitro car doesn't leave as hard as the alcohol car does, but you've got a glide clutch. Everything's different. All the controls are different. The alcohol car had a pedal clutch in it and a 3-speed, and you're staging on high RPMs and shifting at high RPM, twice during the run. The fuel car, we've got a glide clutch in it, and you've got one shift. And that being said, the nostalgia stuff, we're shifting those things over 9,000 RPM. So there's times when you feel like you grit your teeth and turn your head and make sure it stays together.
So now, how did you get to be the driver of the Candie Hughes car?
I think it was just in the right place at the right time. Jim Broom had several other people. Mike Halstead drove for him for a while. Mike Savage drove prior to that. James Day's been in the seat. There's been several people that have driven the car over the years. He's based in Tucson. I'm in Phoenix. And so I really, the first few times I drove the car, I was the test dummy. I was driving it on track rentals and test nights when the other full-time drivers couldn't be there. And I think one thing led to another. We finally ended up in the seat, and he put together the Candies and Hughes rear engine top fuel car, tribute car to the 76 championship car. And Mike Halstead drove it the first time out, and then I drove it the next couple of events. And I think that's kind of what secured the seat for me more than anything else.
So you've only...
Don't get me wrong, Mike Halstead's a great driver. I'm not trying to knock you, Mike, if you're listening.
Oh yeah. Almost all the drivers I talked to in California, they bring up Mike Halstead's name. Everybody loves Mike Halstead.
Right.
So
He's a great guy.
So now for you only drove Candie and Hughes for a couple events.
Yeah, we're going this year. We were actually hoping to be in Amarillo for the Funny Car Chaos event. Things just aren't quite ready yet. We've done some testing. The testing's gone good. We've heard some parts, but we're not quite ready to load the trailer and travel that far for some unknown tune-up issues. So that being said, our first event this year will be July 14th in Grand Junction, Colorado, Western Colorado Dragway. And it's a match race against Lyle Greenberg in his new Cone Hunter Nostalgia Funny Car.
Yeah, Lyle's a great guy. I had him on the show already.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is. I've been running with Lyle for several years. He was actually two-time champion of my Western Fuel Altered Association. So he's a great guy. He knows how to put on a show, and hopefully we can go do that for the folks out there in Colorado.
Now, will you be running at any of the other two Funny Car Chaos events?
Right now we have them on the schedule. We're planning on it. After Grand Junction, we've also got an event in Eddyville we're talking about. We'll be in Martin, Michigan. The intent is when the truck leaves Tucson in July, it probably won't come home until the end of the year. And so we'll do some tour in the Midwest, and then we'll head back to Arizona after that.
So then look
for if you run into us, come by the trailer and make sure you buy a new T-shirt. Kevin Stiff has put together a new Legends of Nitro event T-shirt, but the Legends of Nitro T-shirt for the Candies and Hughes Funny Car with the blessing of Paul Candies and Junior and Jim Broom and myself. And so we're excited about that.
So now, when you first started getting in racing years ago, what drivers were inspirational to you?
Actually, obviously, growing up, my father was the driver of the team that drove the Blind Faith Funny Car when they quit. And so that was, I obviously looked up to my father and wanted to be part of that. But, there's different drivers over the years. I've always been a fan of the Snake and the Mongoose. I grew up in that era, and they were big hits to me. Kalitta's team, the Bounty Hunter issues, and those were the cars I followed back in the day. I don't know that I had one in particular guy that was my go-to guy. Early times, Force was just getting started. you know. So yeah, probably, you know, snake and mongoose days were the biggest things that I remember. Kind of interesting side note is back in the mid '70s, I was a fan of John Powers and the Power Steel Camaro. As a kid, I liked the way that car looked. It ran good, and I actually have an original signed poster in my shop from I think '75, '76, somewhere in that era that John Powers had signed to me. Well, the last Power Steel Camaro that existed was one that Jim Broom had bought from John Powers and ran a couple events. And I was actually the last person to drive the car at the March meet, or maybe it was the reunion last year. So that was kind of cool. Now I've got a poster of me driving a replica of that car hanging in my garage too. So as a kid, that was a car that I really loved, and then as an adult to have me driving a replica of the exact same car, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So now, Jim, are there any drivers out there that you've, that you've met and got advice from out there?
I don't know that I've necessarily got advice from. Lately I've been hanging around with some of the NHRA guys a little bit. One of my good friends, Jay Carter, just went to work for Cruz Pedregon this year, and Cruz called me up last week, or the week before, and hey, I'm in town. What are you doing? And happened to stop by the shop for a little bit and talked about race cars. He's got sprint cars, and obviously he's got a nostalgia car, and then he's got the big show. And so, more recently, probably Cruz, and I've been doing some stuff, hanging around with Terry Haddock's crew some, and so that's probably where I've got the most advice lately.
Now, if you got the chance to get behind the wheel of a big show car, would you do it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like I said, that's actually why I'm in Texas right now, getting a seat fitted for a top fuel dragster. Hopefully we'll run a couple events. I'm trying to get ready to run the Western Swing, but we'll see if that happens or not.
So now for the Candies and Hughes cars, how many crew members are there for the car, and who are the crew members?
I'm going to be in trouble on this one because I don't know that I can name all the crew members. We've had some come and go over the years. I think the mainstay, obviously, Jim Broom is the owner, and David Lindsay has been around for several years now, and if I had to call somebody a head crew chief, he's the head crew chief on the car. Dave's been around drag racing his entire life. He was on Hoover's car back in the day. And we got Todd Pasquale and Dave. What's Dave's last name? See, we just picked up a couple new guys. So there's 6 or 7. That's part of the reason we haven't done as much traveling, is because we've had a changeover in the team recently.
Right. Now, currently, are there any sponsors for the car?
Not major sponsors, at least not that I'm aware of. Maybe Jim's going to call me after this podcast and get after me. My company, American Flowtech, obviously has put a bunch of money in the car to keep it going. But we're a minor sponsor. Total Seal and Torco help us out with product sponsorship, and but no, there's no major sponsors. It's mostly done out of their own pocket.
Okay, so now, Jim, when you get ready for a weekend of drag racing, what goes into preparation for you to get ready for a weekend of drag racing?
Well, if you've seen me, the biggest thing I do the week before is go on a crash diet. That's probably my downfall to being a funny car driver is the size. If I was 50 pounds lighter, everybody would be happier, including the engine. But no, that's it. And before race days, trying to clear your head of the other stuff going on so you can concentrate on what you're doing. Running a business, and I've got a wife and 4 kids, and lots of hobbies, and drag racing's a venue that lets me clear my head, and that's part of the reason it's so relaxing for me. It's because I can concentrate on one thing.
So the wife and kids supportive of the drag racing?
Oh, absolutely. It's always been a big family sport for us. Matter of fact, the Maroneys, my extended family, I mentioned my father and my uncle started out in this thing, but with my extended family involved, I think at one time we had 12 drag cars in the family. Everything from, fuel altereds to top alcohol funny cars to super comp dragsters. You name it, super street cars. Seems like we've had some family reunions at the drag strip where there's as many cars as there is family members there. It seems like.
So now with your 4 kids, how old are the 4 kids?
My baby's 17 in high school. Matter of fact, she just completed her super comp license. I've got a little front engine dragster with an injected small block in it, and she just finished her license in it. Then I got 2 boys that are 21 and 23, and then I've got a daughter that's going on 25 here. And so yeah, kids grew up around the drag races also. There's been back several years ago I used to get after the cameramen because they were taking more pictures of my family in the pits than they would of me. My kids were working on the car.
So you only got one kid driving, huh?
No, matter of fact, so far 3 of them. 2 of them are completely licensed, and Haley and Preston are licensed, and Colton, he's my sprint car guy. That kind of seems to be his forte, the thing he enjoys the most. And but he drove the dragster, started his license last weekend for the first time, made 3 hits. And then my oldest daughter, Randy, she wants to do it, but hasn't gotten the seat yet.
So now, for you, Jim, what are some of your favorite tracks to race on? When we were on the IHRA tour, we ran a lot of tracks. We everywhere from Denver to West Palm Beach, and I got to say, I think it's US 131 in Martin, Michigan, was probably one of the nicest tracks we've ever been to. Norwalk is a very nice facility. My home track, I would tout it to be Tucson Dragway. I live closer to Wild Horse Pass, but I've gone down the track a whole lot more in Tucson than I have at Wild Horse. And Jim Hughes out there has been a good friend to me and treated us real well. Now, you only run quarter mile, or you do 8th mile racing too?
Yeah, everything we do is quarter mile. I have in the past. I've run a couple 8th mile events, and more because, for instance, the wind was blowing or something, and there was some reason we couldn't run quarter mile. I'm an advocate of it. I prefer quarter mile, and things just start getting interesting at half track. But it's also more difficult to tune, particularly a fuel motor, to make it last a quarter mile than an 8th mile. That being said, there's a lot of great racers and a lot of great racing that goes on 8th mile. And there's a whole lot of tracks out there that are 8th mile tracks that you don't hear about because they're 8th mile tracks, I think. Right. But that support the weekly racing.
Yeah, if you do run one of the Funny Car Chaos events this year, then you'll be doing the 8th mile.
Absolutely, you're right. Yeah. And that honestly, that's part of the reason we need to do some more testing, because we need to get the numbers down in the mid 3s to be competitive. I feel like I don't want to show up to an event not prepared. Right. Every time we show up at the track, the intent isn't just to go down the track. The intent is to win the event. Right. And if you don't, in my opinion, if you pull in the gate with a different opinion, then your heart's not in the right spot. I don't know. Maybe not, but don't get me wrong. I go to the racetrack to have a good time also. Right. But
so now, what's been the quickest pass you've had with the Candies and Hughes funny car?
You think I know this off the top of my head? I don't. It's in the 580 range someplace. I think it's 582 at 249. We didn't quite make 250 mile an hour. That would have been, and it may have been, that may have been the reunion a couple years ago. So maybe it wasn't in 82, man. I think it was in 86 because we missed the show by, I don't know what it was. It was 2 10,000ths or something crazy. We were number 17 out of 16 cars.
Now, where do you get your fire suit made from?
All my gear comes from Simpson. I've got a pretty good relationship with them. Sorry about that, TTGA, but they treat me right. Again, through my buddy Jay Carter, he hooked me up with a contact with Simpson, and so they treat me right. I've got a couple, 20 suits and boots, and driving a funny car, you have a tendency to go through fire boots when the car comes apart. But I got to give Jeff Rend a hard time. He took that winter circle picture up at the last event, United Nitro Funny Car deal, and in the winter circle picture, you can see the burn mark up the leg of his fire suit. We'll assume that happened in the final round, and he wasn't driving it that way. But it's all good fun, Jeff. No offense.
So now the Candies and Hughes Funny Car, what's the year and make of that car?
It's modeled after a 71 Barracuda. Same car that they ran back in the day. Obviously, being a funny car, there's no actual Barracuda parts on it. But, I take that back. You can probably, rumor has it, you can put a stock rear main seal in them. And that would be the only part you could buy from a Mopar dealer that I'm aware of.
So now, what kind of engine you got under the body?
It's got a 400, I was going to say 413, but we just changed the combination. But it's a TFX block with Alan Johnson heads on it, little field blower, like I said, MSD 44 amp mag, 34 gallon rage pump on it.
No.
So we're hoping to get out of those five, the high fives, and drop into the mid 5-second range with it. Once we get all the bugs worked out.
Yeah, the fans, they love the big header flames.
Absolutely. That's the other reason for going to the big pump.
Yeah.
Most of what we do, we're on the nostalgia scene. We're there to put on a show for the fans.
Right.
And big burnouts, big header flames, loud noises, good ETs. That's what puts on the show. It's kind of depressing when you watch the big show stuff nowadays, with no burnouts.
Exactly.
But I can assure you, in Grand Junction, between myself and Lyle Greenberg, there's going to be some good burnouts.
So now, with the big header flames, are you looking to get them like the John Lawson, Joe Haas cars?
Exactly. That's basically the same combination that those guys run.
Yeah.
I think they have a big blower on them, but we still have the 671 on it. But that being said, we're not limited to 18% overdrive like you are with the Nostalgia Funny Car groups.
Right.
But so we'll have it turned up over the 18% overdrive.
Yeah.
But matter of fact, in testing last year in Chicago, I match raced. Joe Haas was driving out there, and I believe I actually outran him at that event. Now, hopefully he's not listening to call me up afterwards, get after me.
Yeah.
But we were a legal nostalgia car at that point, too. We had a small pump and a small blower and a small mag.
So what would you consider to be the milestones of your drag racing career?
Well, I'm not an overly wealthy individual, and we've scraped, borrowed, and steal as much as we can to go racing as much as possible. And I've had a great career at it. Being able to drive the Candies and Hughes car is icing on the cake for me because I'm not paying all the bills on it. But my career to this day, and I do have a bucket list item to run big show cars. I highly doubt I'll ever be able to do it full time, but that's probably where I'm going with it. I want to say, the biggest thing that's ever been in my career probably was the date. Baton Rouge in 2011. I was driving my cousin Ron's car on the IHRA tour, the Blind Faith Fuel Altered. We went out there. We set low ET, high mile an hour of the event, won the race, and I was the crew chief, the tuner, and the driver. And so next to winning a Wally at an NHRA national event in the Fuel 20 car, I think that's probably the biggest accomplishment I've had to date.
So now, throughout your career, have you had any accidents or near accidents?
No, I won't call them accidents. I've done my share of killing cones. I don't know why they put them in the middle of the track if they don't want us to hit them. But I've killed my share of cones, and I've been out through the desert a couple times with chute failures or what have you, in the sand and that. But to say I've actually crashed a car, knock on wood, I haven't done that. I don't plan on it.
Maybe we're gonna call you the cone hunter too, like Lyle.
Yeah, right. I don't want to step on Lyle, so he can have those cones.
All right. So I'm going to ask you some fun questions here, Jim. If someone were to give you $200 million and said, "Hey, Jim, build me a new drag race track," where would you want to build a new drag race track, and what kind of features would you put into this track?
Wow. Where I'd put it, I'd have to really look at demographics to figure out where it would make the most sense. But it would definitely be a quarter-mile track. It would probably be patterned after Martin, Michigan, or Norwalk, or someplace along those lines. Me personally, I'm not a big fan of the four-wide stuff, so it would not be a four-wide event. Where would I put it, though? Obviously there's more racers in the Midwest, in the middle of the country someplace, although you get those stinking things called tornadoes out here. We don't have those in Arizona. California is a mecca of nostalgia racing. I love the nostalgia stuff. So, yeah, I don't know. That's a tough question. Where would I put it? It would probably be in the Midwest if I had to do it, just for the sake of travel for the racers and the best location to get racers to there.
Any special features like covered grandstands on the fans or stuff like that?
Everybody's seen the renderings of the indoor drag strip, right? Part of what my company does, American Flowtech, we do construction engineering. We design air conditioning for commercial buildings. And so you talk about putting a drag strip indoors, and I can just imagine the nightmare of trying to ventilate that thing with the Nitro cars going down it. But yeah, I think the big tower at the starting line, or the bridge over the track, and the hospitality suites is a must, particularly with entertaining companies and getting the track sponsorships. But yeah, you're right. Covered grandstands. If you've ever been to Vegas, the one side, the pit side, partially is covered. And then when the sun starts going down in the afternoon, it's real pleasant to sit up there. So yeah, it would be, and that would be something to think about, though, is what direction to point the drag strip.
Yeah.
Because they seem to be pointed all over, every direction you can imagine when you go to them. And trying to keep the sun off the spectators, and that would be a big priority for me.
Yeah. So now, have you ever ran at Bakersfield?
Yes, I have. Matter of fact, we didn't have the fuel cars ready for the March meet, and so I actually ran my little dragster in NE2, Nostalgia Eliminator 2 on 860 index out there. Like I said, at the March meet back in March. I won first round, but unfortunately I do own a business, and it was time to go home, and we got so much rain it got postponed off till Monday, and we had to go on down the road. But yeah, I've been to Bakersfield several times. I've driven fuel altereds and honey cars and dragsters, and then I think that's the first time I've been to Bakersfield and not had a fuel car with me. It was last March.
So now, Jim, you have any hobbies outside of drag racing?
Come on now. Obviously, we've got sprint cars. Anybody listening, go to my Maroney Racing site on Facebook and you can see pictures of all our toys. But we've got multiple non-wing sprint cars, so that's a hobby. Bass fishing, love bass fishing, love water skiing. So that's our plan for this weekend. Is actually we're going to spend some time at the lake. And nobody water skis anymore. Now you got to wake surf. I'm not. It's more difficult for me. I'd prefer to be on a slalom ski, doing 30, than being on a little tiny board at 10 miles an hour behind this boat trying to hang on.
So now, for you, either in the fuel altered or a funny car, who's been your greatest competitor of all time?
Greatest competitor. There's been some people that I've just to be able to, stage against would be cool. But to say I had a greatest competitor or my arch rival or whoever you want to call, I don't know that there really is anybody. I really look up to the guys that run the March meet and the California reunion. You get a whole different level of drivers out there. You get the guys, which I'll compare to like myself, that have been doing it all their life and kind of struggling to get to where they're at. And then you got, every once in a while, you get a Ron Capps or somebody that comes and drives somebody's car. So, Jeff Aren's been in everything that has wheels on it. But it's cool to be able to be on a level playing field with all the drivers in a fuel funny car. That's pretty cool to me.
Right. So now, Jim, if you were able to do time traveling and go back in time, is there anything you would do differently?
Well, do I get to know what I know now? Right? Of course there's things I'd do differently. I think everybody, looking back, hindsight's 20/20. It's always easy to go back and say, I wish I would have done this, or I wish I would have done that, or done something different. I can't complain. Life's been good to me. I got a loving wife and family, and my parents are still together. I grew up with, two parents in the home, and that love me, and we're a big family. Our family, close-knit family. So from that standpoint, I have no regrets. From the racing standpoint, there's guys out there that spent every dime they ever had to go racing. John Force is a good example of that. And maybe I should have done that, but I can't complain. I'm in a good place. So, no, I guess really not. There's not a lot I would have changed. All
right. So, now, if you ever have time to go on a vacation with the family, what's your favorite vacation spot to go to?
Well, I'm taking the family to Hawaii next month. So we're going to go over to Oahu. Now, we're not going to the Big Island. We're not going to play in the volcanoes. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I did question where we were going exactly. But we've been to Hawaii. This will be our second trip over there. It's a nice place. And like I said, taking the whole family. We have a vacation home at Roosevelt Lake in Arizona that we spend a lot of time at. So when we vacation, that's where we end up most of the time.
All right. So what's Jim's favorite food to eat?
Mexican food. You name it. I eat Mexican food 5 days a week. If you look at my Facebook site, I made leftovers with jalapenos just last night. So Mexican food's what it is. Not a huge dessert person, but give me a good red chili chimichanga with rice and beans, and I'm good to go.
Does the wife cook?
Yeah, she does.
So
absolutely.
So what's your favorite dish that the wife makes?
Chicken enchiladas. There you go.
Yeah. Okay.
Neither one of us have any Mexican in us, but Mexican food is my favorite food by far.
Okay. So what's your favorite beverage?
I drink Mountain Dew like it's going out of style.
All right. You're like
That's part of the reason for the 50 pounds we were just talking about. And I know nobody has to tell me.
you're just like my wife shouts out she's drinking Mountain Dew, Mountain Dew, Mountain Dew.
That's right. And the gal at Circle K knows me quite well every morning.
So what's your favorite music of choice?
Music of choice. Well, let's see. Coming out here on the plane, I was listening to some Iron Maiden and switched over to some Volbeat when the guy next to me elbowed me. So yeah, I'm a rocker. I grew up listening to Ozzy and Dio and Accept and Maiden.
Judas Priest.
Judas Priest, right. I had Rat. Well, I was a big Rat fan back in the day when they first came out. I think I had a window tinted on my mirror, my bedroom.
No. Now, have you heard Judas Priest's latest album, Firepower?
I'm sorry, say it again?
I said, have you heard the latest Judas Priest album, Firepower?
Yeah, I have, matter of fact.
What do you think about it?
Well, it's okay. I've kind of gone away from Judas Priest so much. I'm more, the new Five Finger Death Punch album is killer. Lately, Five Finger and Shine Down is more what I'm listening to on a daily basis.
What did you think of Iron Maiden's Book of Souls?
I follow Maiden. They got an Instagram site thing too. It's good. There's no bad Iron Maiden. I'm sorry. I'm a Maiden fan through and through. From the old stuff to the newer stuff, it's all great. I love Maiden.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with Maiden.
Matter of fact, speaking of Maiden, something spurred a memory here was my cousin Ron Maroney and I. We actually took his car to a wedding. His fuel altered, and we did a fire up during the wedding reception. I don't know. We didn't know these people very well. I'm like, who wants a fuel-altered fire up at their wedding reception? But you know what? First thing they did when the reception started was they cranked up Maiden. I thought, oh man, I'm in hog heaven here. We got Maiden blaring on the radio, and we're gonna fire a fuel car here in a few minutes. So it was the best wedding reception I've ever been to.
So now you go to a lot of concerts, Jim?
No, not much of a concert goer anymore. I'll catch somebody in Vegas or something like that. And I'm not going to tell you who I saw in Vegas last because my wife will. But, not so much a concert goer anymore. The whole mosh pit and thing, it doesn't. I don't know. I'd be the old fuddy-duddy sitting at the top, banging my head still. But I haven't been to a concert in a few years.
So can you remember the first concert you ever went to in your life?
Oh, I can, but if my parents are listening, I can't say what it was. No, I think it was actually a Scorpions concert. It was either that or Ronnie James Dio. It was either Dio or Scorpions in Tucson, Arizona, back in probably 85, something like that.
Yeah, there will never be another Ronnie James Dio, man.
You got that right.
Dragons and rainbows. So now, Jim, do you have a favorite movie of all time?
Favorite movie of all time? I loved Heart Like a Wheel when it came out. I think I saw it at the movie theater a dozen times. And I still own the DVD today. It was like the first real movie to me that there was a movie about drag racing.
Is that the Shirley Muldowney movie?
Yeah. Shirley Muldowney movie. Whether you're a Shirley fan or not, it was a cool movie. It depicted a lot of things that went on back in that time, and
right.
So that was, other than that, I actually passed a Corvette on the road the other day that reminded me of a Corvette Summer movie. And for the longest time, Corvette Summer was my movie. But Heart Like a Wheel is probably my favorite movie of all time.
Now, Jim, on
either that or Forrest Gump. My wife's going to tell me Forrest Gump is because our family quotes Forrest Gump. Like, I think you know every line in it.
Run, Forrest, run. So, Jim, on a race day, do you have any certain eating habits on race day?
Don't eat much on race day. I'll eat really. I eat an okay breakfast, not a huge one, but protein, a couple eggs. But then I typically don't eat lunch, don't eat at all really until the racing's over at the end of the day. I just don't do good on a full stomach with butterflies and all that. And you say butterflies, but you get every race I've ever gone to, the first pass of the weekend, you've got the butterflies, and you got butterflies until they fire the motor and close the body, and then it's your car, and the butterflies go away, and you're good the rest of the weekend. But before that first pass of every event, I've got the butterflies for 2 or 3 days. That's my wife. I'm hell to live with prior to it.
Yeah. What would you consider the fondest moment of your drag racing career?
Unfortunately, I think I already answered that. But winning the IHRA, winning my Ironman down in Baton Rouge in Ron's car in the fuel altered, where I was the crew chief, the tuner, and the driver, and low ET and high mile an hour, and won the event. That was, next, like I said, next to being in the big show and winning a fuel funny car race. That would probably be the topper on it, but that hasn't happened yet.
Now, how important do you think it is for the kids to come out to watch drag racing?
Oh, it's major important. You talk about kids in general or my kids, but I'm just kids in general.
Yeah, kids in general.
TV is terrible for drag racing. It does not do it justice at all. Drag racing with the noise and the smells and the fire and smoke and the rumbling in your chest, and it's something you got to feel. It's not just something you watch on TV. And so if your initial impression is made by watching something on TV, my Uber driver this morning, matter of fact, we were talking about drag racing. So, I've seen it on TV. I'm like, man, you got to go to the racetrack. Forget TV, forget everything you saw. Come to the racetrack, experience it. You have a whole new outlook on it.
Yep. Now, if people are listening want to find your schedule, what's the best way? The Maroney Racing page?
Yeah, Maroney Racing. I try to keep that updated as far as what I'm doing in particular every weekend. Seems like every weekend we're racing someplace, whether it's sprint cars or drag cars. But yeah, Maroney Racing on Facebook is the best way to follow me.
Okay. Well, Jim, I want to thank you very much for being on air with me. And do you have any final words to say to everybody out there listening?
Rock on, baby.
Support your local drag strip tracks.
Support your local drag strip.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks.
Go to the races. Not on the street.
Right. No illegal straight racing.
Right.
Even though that's
thanks a lot.
Even though that's how some of the drivers started out.
Right.
With the legal street racing. Some of them I talked to anyway. Yeah.
Yep.
So thanks again, Jim.
Okay.
You have a great night. Bye bye.